good job, and I'd like to also bestow upon you the grade of an A for the job that you are doing. I think you're doing a top shelf performance as police chief in this city. Also, I want to commend those who are pushing the camera issue. I think that is an excellent tool. It's going to be very, very helpful. At the same time, I want to just reiterate, for the record, that what's going on across America today is not due to a citizen outcry for body cameras on police officers at all. Citizens never stepped forward and said, we want body cameras, body cameras. That was subsequent to the action that happened across America. Citizens stepped forward across America and said, we have questions about some of the police actions. We don't like how they're treating us. We have questions about police investigation outcomes. We have questions about police accountability oversight. See, that is what's going on across America. Now, to make sure that we don't get steered into a direction where, and you cautiously stated very carefully that this camera situation isn't going to resolve what's happening in Houston nor across America, because the video camera is going to have a piece of evidence that John can see and Elizabeth can see, and they're going to form their own opinions about what they see on that video. And you correctly mentioned that the Eric Garner case in New York had video that the free world has seen, and we're still where we are today concerning that particular case. I think Council Member Kubarsh had some sage commentary concerning this new evidence that, as we collect it, how is it going to be managed? Who's going to have access to it? What value is it going to have? I think that's a real good question, because as the city attorney indicated, if it's treated like regular evidence, and I submit to you perhaps it should be, then it means that citizens won't have access to it. You have a lot of evidence now in the property room that every citizen can't just walk down and say, let me see, this piece of evidence. That's simply not the way that it works. But I do want to say that in addition to this discussion we have here today, and all the efforts in Houston and other places about the camera, I hope and pray that we get to the point that we're going to have this energy, this type of effort about rebuilding, restoring the confidence and trust in police in Houston and across America. I would submit to you we should be talking about training our police officers as it relates to cultural competence and threat assessment. I think that officers are perceiving threats in some situations because there's a lack of cultural competence in a particular neighborhood. So I think we should start building that into the equation as well. Go back to the point in chief here. The pilot that we have done and going forward, the testing period, I hope that we come up with a protocol that will allow for the conversations officers have in their car, personal conversations, conversation during breaks, restroom type activities. We have to have some protocol in place where those things are not captured for video use later on. That's a concern. Talk to me more about, if you are at this point in time, I'm concerned about officers' field time, because I think you very correctly outlined we are about to employ a process in the Houston Police Department that's going to require additional resources. See, Chuck, they beat up on you now. Some people do because you got that big budget over there, and you do. But now we're about to put something else on you, and you said you may have to put a whole other unit together just to manage this infrastructure, and officers have to index these videos. That's going to take time. So now officers are off the field more. They're not in the field more time because they may have to take extra 30 minutes to index this video, and so that means either you got to pay them overtime to index. So have you started thinking through how that may impact staffing?
Yes, we have. We had an intense conversation about it yesterday, and all of those things came up. The overtime, how we could stagger, could we do some updates in the indexing during part of their shift. We're exploring all of our options, but it's going to be a challenge. And we will know more when we pick the equipment. That will answer quite a few of our questions regarding how we're going to manage this.
And Chief, how comfortable you are in stating whether the cameras that you piloted several months ago, did that technology reflect the technology that's available today, or has it changed?
It's changed. The technology we have that we piloted is out there.
Okay. See, that's another issue that needs to be brought on the table also, because you did a good job doing the pilot. You all have learned a lot about what the protocol should be via that pilot, but I don't want us to think that we know all the answers, and that's why it's going to take several months yet. They can drop a check on you today. Still, it's going to take several months before we are ready to deploy cameras on officers in the field, because we have to still measure what's going on and what we need to do. And I will yield and stand down by saying, I really want to just end with a cautious comment that body cameras is a good tool. It will provide additional evidence that is not available in prior circumstances, but it is by no means at all going to address the disconnect that exists between residents in some neighborhoods and police officers. We're going to have to do something else different there, and I would encourage us to start thinking seriously about that cultural competence component and threat assessment, and how police officers, in my view, in some instances, really do need to receive some additional training in the area of threat assessment based on what he or she does or does not know about what I call cultural competence, because cultural competences, we're talking about neighborhood residents and people in the neighborhood and how that neighborhood perceive, how they interact with police officers and what they expect. I know we cannot force officers to live in the city of Houston. I don't think that's necessary. We shouldn't do that. But I think we ought to have a radius, which we do, within a certain radius of downtown. But more importantly, I think it's time to look at paying incentive pay for police officers who live in certain zip codes. Officer, live where you want to live within this huge radius, but if you want to live in this zip code, that zip code, or this zip code, we will pay you incentive pay, whether that's $5,000, $10,000 a year additional compensation. Have you all started talking about that? Because we need officers in the neighborhoods. You know, you and I live right in what we call the hood. You know, we walk there, we play there, people know who we are, but we don't have many other police officers, you know, that live in these zip codes where I think we need to have them.